Hey everyone, this isn't a review per se, it's a video essay. I know this, if you don't know what a video essay is, just go Google it. I don't want this video flooded with comments like, what's a video essay? Go Google it yourself. And I was thinking maybe doing one on on a movie, and I thought, what? Well, if anything, why not one of my favorite movies? Because if it's one of my favorites, I'd have so much to talk about. So, but the question is, I thought, which movie should I do a video essay on? And since probably 99% of you only care about this channel when I review animated films, I thought probably my favorite animated movie. Only thing is, for years, I've been I've been deciding what's my favorite animated movie, Toy Story or Shrek. They're both two of my favorite movies, and I love them both for totally different reasons. Toy Story was a familiar but still very um, engaging concept about toys coming to life. Only, but just like a lot of Pixar movies, it takes something not exactly new, but it puts some new twists and spins on it, and that's exactly what Toy Story did. Like, for example, like how they always talk about their owners. But Shrek, however, was definitely way funnier, and it definitely had a bigger appeal towards adults, and for better or worse, changed the animation industry. So I kept thinking, which one, and oh, why am I even building this up? You all read the title. Shrek. Yep, Shrek is my favorite animated movie. It's, I guess maybe I should explain the plot for what, like the two people on Earth who've never seen this movie. Shrek is about an ogre named Shrek, played by Mike Myers, who basically has a typical life you'd expect from an ogre. He showers in mud, he brushes his teeth with bug crap, he fetches slugs for his dinner, he jumps in ponds, he pretty much and scares villagers. He does all sorts of things you'd think a monster would do. But then one day he he finds out something is up. The very next day, a bunch of fairy tale characters have been turned in for rewards, and they're all being captured. And then in the woods, he comes across a donkey named Donkey, played by Eddie Murphy, who won't stop leaving him alone because, just like Shrek, he has no friends, and Donkey doesn't know what to do with his life. But then later that night, all the fairy tale characters appear in Shrek's yard. Like, they all show up, and it's because that there's this guy named Lord Farquaad, played by John Lithgow, who banished them from his kingdom and sent them to Shrek's swamp. So obviously Shrek is really annoyed by this because he only likes being left alone. So he thinks that he wants to go to Lord Farquaad and talk to him to get this whole thing settled. The only thing is, Lord Farquaad wants to be a king because he wants his kingdom to be the most powerful one of all. And so Shrek decides to go on a quest with Donkey to save a princess named Fiona, played by Cameron Diaz. And the two of them travel and try to get her to Lord Farquaad. Only Shrek starts to kind of build up some feelings towards maybe having friends and a love interest. This is an incredible movie. Like, I know this movie's kind of become a joke now. Probably, like I said, I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself. This isn't scripted, but say what you want about all the crazy shenanigans this has caused on the internet. This is a fantastic movie. It's very unique. It was definitely very unique at the time. That's definitely why it inspired a lot of animated movies. And like it says right there, Academy Award winner, Best Animated Feature 2001, because this was the first animated movie to win the Best Animated Feature Oscar, and it deserves it because at the time this changed the game because it was a really really unique film. I know if this movie came out today, I mean, it would have been good, but like, it still would have been really good. But like at the time, there was definitely if this movie counts, it wouldn't really have too many elements that would be fresh. But back when this movie came out in 2001, like it was fresh. It wasn't a typical Disney film. Like this was more focused on comedy, and it was kind of had a more edge to it for adults, and that's really what I love about this movie because that's one of the reasons this is one of my favorite animated movies. Like it has a huge appeal towards adults, like lots of the humors for adults, like and lots of the you get a lot of the satirical kind of edge to this, like even like not all the adult stuff is jokes are like inappropriate or something, but like lots of them like you wouldn't really get as like a child. Like there's this one joke where they go Shrek and Donkey go across the bridge to save Fiona, and Shrek says, "Sure, it's big, but look at the location." Like it's a joke about real estate. Like it's really clever. Like there's like little small details in the writing that really click when you're an adult. Like this is not a stupid film for kids. Like it's a perfect film for all ages. Like it's well, okay, when I say all ages, I don't mean like I don't mean like for infants. Like this would be super like because lots of the humor is kind of more geared towards older viewers, but like kids still can still enjoy it because they like the concept of an ogre like trying to be the hero, and they like seeing all these fairy tale characters, and they like a funny wisecracking donkey, and that's the fun because like it pokes fun at Disney films. Like Shrek is not a typical Disney prince or whatever. Like he's not a typical protagonist because Shrek, he's an outcast. Because in the whole during the whole well, not the whole movie, but like in the beginning, Shrek's alone in a swamp, and he likes to scare villagers when they come. It's kind of a like I said, it's one of the things he does for a living. And there's a really nice scene in the beginning where he's having dinner. I mean, like, sure, it has like a lot of gross out moments. Like he makes a candle out of his earwax, or the fact that he's like eating a slug. But like, there's something so satisfying about that scene because like it shows that Shrek's not a total monster. Like he's not evil. Sometimes when he's left alone, that's when he's in his comfort zone. Like when he's sitting down eating dinner, he seems really calm, and he seems really pleased with himself. Like, and even in the beginning when it shows him in his daily morning routine, like showering in mud or brushing his teeth with bug innards, it's like he's not angry. He likes being the monster he is, and the only thing he doesn't like is how people treat him. Because that's the thing, like Shrek, he's not just a mean ogre just because he looks like a big ugly monster. It's because he's really stressed that a lot of people don't treat him right, and that's why he doesn't really get along with Donkey at first, because Donkey is the first friend that Shrek ever had, because in the beginning, like almost no one is nice to Shrek in the beginning, but when Donkey finally sees him, Donkey really appreciates Shrek because he protects him from the knights that tried to take him when they were taking all the fairy tale characters, and so Donkey really grows really strong feelings for Shrek, and that's how they bought. But Shrek, of course, he's not really warming up to Donkey that much because while Donkey he does really warm up to Shrek really quick, it's because he's just a donkey. No one really treats him bad. He just was kind of lonely and he never had anybody. Shrek, however, he doesn't take nice to anybody because nobody's nice to him. And when nobody's nice to you, you don't really have the whole positive attitude towards others when they are nice to you, because he even says later in the movie, it's not me that has a problem with the world, it's the world that has a problem with me. And that's the thing, because when people just when the world doesn't treat you good, you're probably not going to be the most positive person towards the people who do like you. And that doesn't sound good, but it happens because you're just not used to it. And but Shrek definitely does warm up to Donkey. He doesn't hate him. He just hasn't warmed up to the idea of having a friend. But Donkey is really attached to Shrek, and that's definitely the dynamic between them is really good. Like, it's not a typical like animated character best friend duo. Like, it's not like say like SpongeBob and Patrick where they're both always nice to each other and one's just has a kind of different personality. No, Shrek, he well in the sequels, yeah, Shrek does become a lot nicer because he slowly throughout each movie he starts to warm up to the world. But I'm not talking about the sequels. This is about the first movie. And Donkey, like, he's just kind of, he's really attached to Shrek because he really relates to him and how neither of them really have anybody to be with. So throughout the movie, they kind of share their differences, and in the end, they really get along. And especially Mike Myers and Eddie Murphy, two really, really great comedians. Their voice acting really sells it because I can't think of anybody uh, who would have a better voices for Shrek and Donkey. I know Chris Farley actually was going to play Shrek originally because actually most of Shrek's dialogue was recorded by Chris Farley, but then unfortunately he had to pass away and the voices acting couldn't be complete, and so they got Mike Myers to re-record everything because obviously he couldn't record the remaining lines because the voices wouldn't fit. But Mike but Mike Myers, he has a really iconic voice for Shrek. Like, hearing Shrek without a Scottish accent would be um well, it would the world would be different, that's for sure. And he's definitely a really unique character. Cuz Shrek, he's not a bad guy like I said. He's kind of sure he can be mean, but that's because he hasn't warmed up the idea of being positive because nobody treats him well. And later, they come across, of course, Princess Fiona, who is pretty much the parody of a Disney princess. Like, she's the anti-Disney princess, and like she's a good character. Like, she's fun. And Cameron Diaz like really sells this performance because Cameron Diaz, she does have a nice voice, but like she has really good comedic timing, and she's very funny in a lot of movies. So she nails a character like Fiona. And like the idea of Fiona is kind of good. Like, she does get a lot of good laughs of how she's kind of a disgusting princess. Like, she can burp in front of Shrek, she wouldn't care. She could trap a bunch of flies in a spider web and make cotton candy out of it. She wouldn't be disgusted. She could make a balloon animal out of a snake and she wouldn't have a problem. Like, she's really strange and she's a really unconventional princess. And that's what I like about her. It pretty much parodies the whole idea of a Disney princess. Like, she's not like all perfect and pretty and she wants more in her life. But no, like, Fiona's kind of like a crazy princess, and that's what we like about her because she's that's a funny idea, having a princess not act like a princess. And it does kind of a little bit foreshadow over her behavior, does overshadow, well, not foreshadow, I mean, sorry, I'm doing this in one take. It foreshadows the idea that she's an ogre because, well, she's not wasn't fully an ogre because in the movie she does explain that when she was a kid a witch cast a spell on her that every night she would become an ogre. So yeah, the whole thing of her being an ogre, like, it is kind of hinted at in the beginning of how she acts really bizarre, like, so, and which explains why her and Shrek seem to get along so much. And Shrek is doesn't while she does warm up to Fiona, he still isn't totally sold on the idea of her. Like, when they first meet, Shrek's in a knight armor, and he's afraid to take off his helmet because he thinks Fiona's going to be scared of him, and which makes sense because everybody's scared of him. But Fiona isn't scared of him. Like, I mean, she is really shocked over the fact that an ogre saved her, but she's not scared of her. and they really do have good chemistry together. Like Shrek and Fiona, while they are different in a lot of ways, they are similar in a lot of ways. So that's what I like about it. Like Fiona has a lot of traits to her that makes her different from Shrek, but with some things mixed in, that really does make with good chemistry for her and Shrek, and that's why I think they're definitely a believable couple. Like obviously they don't fall in love immediately. Like they don't want to get married like from the beginning, but like you still buy them as a couple because they seem to really get along and seem to unusually have a lot in common. And the villain, Lord Farquaad, played by John Lithgow, he's pretty much like he's kind of like a typical like he's a parody of a Disney villain, and because he wants to be a king and he wants to be the ruler, he wants to have a powerful kingdom because he got informed that well his kingdom isn't the best it could be, so he wants to marry a princess, which is Fiona. And he of course he's not informed about her whole thing of being an ogre because he didn't want to care to hear what the magic mirror said about her. And the whole thing about Lord Farquaad is he's pretty much a parody, like a satire of a dictator, because the whole thing is that he wants his kingdom to be the best it could be. That's why he banished all the fairy tale characters, because as he says to the gingerbread man, they poisoned his perfect world. And yeah, there is a when he's first introduced, it's kind of a funny scene where the gingerbread man he's on a tray and he's getting tortured and his legs are broken off, and the whole thing like his executioner's dipping him in milk, and he taunts him by playing with his legs, which is kind of it's like it's funny, like it's a really cartoony gag. That's what I really like about like this movie, because it has a lot of moments for us, but like there's some stuff that's kind of straight up out of a Saturday morning cartoon. Like a lot of this does feel kind of like an Animaniacs episode, and that's what I love about it. And the whole thing, yeah, he's interrogating the gingerbread man, asking where did everybody go, where and how what are they doing with and in Shrek's homeland, and of course he doesn't know. So that's afterwards he finds out where he wants to be a king, because that's what the magic mirror tells him, because all you have to do is marry a princess, and that's where he gets the idea of trying to marry Fiona. And yeah, Lord Farquaad, like I said, he's definitely kind of like a take on a Disney villain, how he's doesn't think he's perfect and he really wants to be, because he's very selfish, he's very mean, and of course he's not nice to of course he's not nice to Shrek, because well he's an ogre, and but somehow he does accept the fact that he can use him to go save Fiona. And a part of that, I guess, was because he was battling some knights earlier. Because that's also a great scene. Like, there's a part where he actually wants Shrek dead, because he says the first who kills the ogre will be named champion, and then Shrek goes into a big fight while Bad Reputation plays. I'll get into the soundtrack later, and he just fights a bunch of knights, effortlessly, and that's kind of the fun of this movie. Like it has an unpredictability for the main character. That's what makes Shrek such a. I have a battery warning. Like I say, yeah, that's kind of what makes Shrek a really unpredictable character, because you see him fight those knights effortlessly. Like you're like, I didn't know an ogre could fight, and he does get along with Donkey in some scenes, which is kind of funny, because you're like, I thought you think Shrek would be mean to Donkey for the whole movie, but he can be really annoyed by him in a lot of scenes. But the fact that Donkey tries to be nice to him is kind of a good thing for Shrek, because he actually can tolerate him, and he actually wants his help. Like when they're in the castle trying to save Fiona, they actually do move together, and when when they're crossing the bridge, it's of course lots of the movie. The Lots of the themes are shown in very comedic ways. Like they're on a bridge and Donkey is scared, and obviously Shrek is annoyed of how fearful Donkey is. So he shakes the bridge, making Donkey run and going back to the other side, and he's already there. That's funny. That's funny. Lots of the humor in this movie is just clever when it works within the context of the story. When it actually has a purpose, like that bridge scene, how like obviously like if Shrek just picked up Donkey and threw him, like that'd be a joke, but it wouldn't be as funny. Like it's just showing, but like Shrek tries to be nice by just rocking the bridge, and Donkey's just scared, but then he realized he made it. So Shrek kind of uses things to get people to, accomplish things. And that's kind of what they like, even when Shrek later finds out that Fiona does have a bit in common with her, there's a really nice scene where they go out and they have dinner together and he's cooking rats on a rotisserie stick. Like, yeah, that's goofy, but like they do kind of have a nice moment. Like, even though Shrek does deal with the fact that he has to turn in the princess, he does still want to get to know her better, because he even says to her, maybe you can come visit me in the swamp sometime. I'll cook you all kinds of things. Swamp toad soup, fish eye tartar, you name it. Like, Shrek knows what he has to do, but he's kind of warming up to somebody, and that's the thing, because when he first met Donkey, like he wasn't used to someone being nice to him, but with Fiona, he slowly falls in love with her, and given that somebody else, well, Donkey, was nice to him, he thought, maybe there's a chance I could be nice to someone too, and that's kind of why Donkey seems like a pretty helpful sidekick to Shrek. With Donkey being nice to Shrek, Shrek somehow finds a way to be nice to somebody he loves. So yeah, that's kind of one of the things about Donkey. Like, he's funny. Like, he's kind of like Donkey's pretty much kind of a take on like wisecracking Disney comic reliefs, like say Timon and Pumbaa or Mushu or somebody. Which, funny enough, Eddie Murphy also played Mushu. Interesting connection. But yeah, like Donkey isn't just like a comic relief. He does help Shrek throughout the whole movie, try to slowly be nice and eventually find love. And Shrek sometimes realizes being mean isn't always the answer when someone doesn't like you. Because who knows, maybe if you're nice to someone, somebody might like you. And that's a theme that's explored throughout the future of the movies, because Shrek tries to be nice to some other people, and eventually they do warm up to him. And like I said earlier, it's because, as he said, the world doesn't. He doesn't have a problem with the world. The world has a problem with him. But slowly, his arc throughout the movie is that the world doesn't have a problem with him normally, as he tries to be nice. So the whole arc of Shrek is just not to judge others by their appearance, and it's evident by the ending when Fiona becomes an ogre. Obviously, he doesn't. Fiona doesn't really like the fact that she's an ogre at first after Shrek kisses her, but then she realizes that the beauty's on the inside, and Shrek still loves her, and he loves her just the way she is, and I like that. I like that they didn't go the typical happy ending. They kind of made it a little strange, but they still made a kind of sweet animated couple together. Like, you really buy their relationship, which is very evident in the sequels, because they do really get along, and the animation especially, like, I guess maybe by today's standards, the animation in this movie isn't incredible. But for a movie that came out 21 years ago, it still looks great. Like you see all the textures on like Shrek's vest and something, or Fiona's hair, or even a lot of things. Like I actually read that one of the hardest things to do with in the movie when it comes to animation was actually the mud bath or the mud shower, I should say. Sorry, because in fact, I even read some of the animators even actually had to take mud showers to get a reference of what the consistency of mud would be like if you're in a shower. That's disgusting, but real commitment. And this movie definitely paved the way for how visually animated movies should look. And this is one of the first few computer animated movies where the humans look good. Like the humans, I really don't like to use the term realistic because obviously they don't look like real people. They look like cartoony, animated characters. But like look at like Lord Farquaad or Fiona, for example. Like obviously they don't look like actual humans, but they still look stylish enough to be in an animated movie, but also looking human. It's kind of a weird balance between the two, but I find it interesting, and a lot of animated movies tend to do that, and I quite like it for that. Like, it still looks engaging while still having like a different feel to it compared to like a really colorful like Disney or Pixar movie, and that really. So yeah, like it's not just the writings. Lots of people would argue the writing was what paved the way for animation when it came to this movie. But I think the animation still held a big part in that. Like Toy Story, yes, it paved the way for the format of computer animation, but this movie, it more so paved the way for almost anything in an animated movie. So I think it should really be recognized for that. Oh, and also, did I mention the soundtrack for this movie is perfection? I'm not even being ironic. This might be Shrek might have the best soundtrack out of any movie ever. Like seriously, can you name one other movie that has All Star, I'm a Believer, Bad Reputation, My Beloved Monster, and If You Like Pina Coladas all in the same movie? The question is, no, you can't, because this movie is one of a kind. This movie can't be replicated. I know lots of people. I know this movie. Lots of anime movies were influenced from this movie for, like I said, for better or worse. But they can never be on the same level that Shrek did. Heck, even some animated movies tried to do the whole fairy tale aspect, and like they did Hoodwinked, which was a fairly good movie despite the horrible animation. The writing, honestly, is pretty above average, so it's actually a fairly good film. Happily Never After, which sucked. Igor, which I never seen in a long time. It's supposed to be a modernized take on the Frankenstein tale, but despite that, like you can definitely say, regardless whether the things turned out good or not, this movie did change a lot of things when it came to animated films, and even DreamWorks, lots of their movies kind of have that style of having a more comical tone than Disney movies, or having similar types of like unlikely hero characters, and like because like okay, like let's be real, Disney movies compared to DreamWorks movies, regardless of what you think, DreamWorks definitely is better when it comes to humor. Like, say what you want about like Disney and Pixar movies, but like they none of them really tend to be as funny as DreamWorks movies. Most of the best jokes in Disney and Pixar movies are more for adults. DreamWorks, even the kid-friendly jokes kind of still tend to be as funny, almost like episodes of SpongeBob. And that's what I love about Shrek. Like, it's an animated movie that's for kids, but also for adults. Like, yes, this is a kids movie. I really think people, especially my dad, really misunderstand the definition of a kids movie. A kids movie is a movie that's specifically marketed towards children, and they're like the script is written for children in mind, and that's what a kids movie is. Just because kids can watch a movie, say like Star Wars and such, that doesn't mean it is a kids movie. But it is a kids movie, but not in the way you'd expect. It's like a kids movie that's for adults. Like, if that makes any sense, because lots of the stuff in this movie is more aimed towards adults, and that's what I love about this movie. It's a very unique kids film for the time, and which is understands why this movie won an Oscar for Best Animated Feature, because this movie was very unique when it came to an anime movie. Like, it wasn't a typical like Lion King or Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin or actually, on second thought, Aladdin does kind of have some similar uh, aspects to this movie, because Aladdin was also kind of more of a comedic spin on a fairy tale, but not in the same way this movie really was. Because this movie was definitely through and through a comedy, and it was definitely very different from the time, and we love it for that. And looking back, we still love it. Like, we still get why this was a game changer for animated movies, and why this is a movie that we us 2000s kids grew up on. And even if you were were born before that time, you at least probably still had to have seen this movie at least a couple times in your life, and that's really what makes Shrek a really unique movie. So yeah, this is my first attempt at something like this. I don't know if it's good or what, or so I guess cut me a little bit of slack, but I think Shrek, like, it's a masterpiece. Like, if you haven't seen it in quite a few years, it's worth a rewatch. Like, especially if you're an adult, there's a lot of stuff that you'll appreciate more. Like, lots of the humor, or lots of the aspects and themes, like lots of things that I think are really worth noting. And I think it's a fantastic movie for that. It's a definite masterpiece, and that's what makes it my favorite animated movie. It's a movie for kids that's also a movie for adults, and without driving a wedge or feeling forced. It's it's a naturally made comedy that's for pretty much all demographics, and that's what I love about it, and it'll always hold a special place in me. This truly is a one of a kind movie. So yeah, Shrek, like I said, if you haven't seen it in a while, it's definitely worth a rewatch if you're bored one day. So I think this movie's absolutely amazing. Definitely my favorite animated movie. Like I said, there's lots of great animated movies out there, but this is definitely a really unique. I never seen something like this, like something so unique, so funny, and it's very, you know, gripping for all ages, and that's really what makes this movie amazing for me. So yeah, those are my in-depth thoughts on Shrek. I think it's a absolutely phenomenal movie. So I'm sure I know all of you have seen this movie, so let me know what you think of Shrek. I don't want to say if you've seen it, because everybody's seen Shrek. So yeah, this was a different kind of video. I don't, like I said, I don't know if I did well or not, but hey, some things are worth trying once. So I'll see you in my next video. Hopefully it'll definitely be a normally structured review this time. So take care, and I'll see you when I can. Later.